All right, let's get right to the heart of this thing.
Don't fight it, son. Confess quickly.
Strange women lying in ponds, distributing swords is no basis for a system of government.
It's evil! Don't touch it!
That was only one of the many occasions on which I met my death.
Welcome to Framework. This is John, one of the hosts of Framework, and with me as always, the other host of Framework, Al. Good morning, Al. Good afternoon.
Yeah, hi there, John. What are we doing today?
Well, we are going to be talking about The Fisher King, another Terry Gilliam film. One of the Hollywood ones he made after the Baron Munchausen film colossally failed at the box office. He was required to go make movies in America, starring movie stars, which, not the worst fate, perhaps. And he certainly made something of it.
And interesting to note that, since it's focused on a character sort of trying to break into Hollywood and failing and then succeeding and then kind of backing away from it anyway.
Well, Gilliam has a lot of trepidation himself about the Hollywood system, as he says, based on experiences with Brazil and such. And perhaps that is reflected somehow. You know what? We're getting ahead of ourselves. We got a guest here. We have a returning to the program guest, one of our favorites. Welcome back, Michael Martin.
Oh, thanks for having me back.
Our pleasure. And thank you for coming back for The Fisher King, which was your choice of Gilliam films.
Yeah.
You gave us a few.
I did give you a few. Yeah. I had not seen it for 30 years, so it was interesting to watch it again.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so what did you see it in theaters?
No, I saw it on VHS back in the day because I am ancient.
I saw it in theaters as a kid.
Okay. Wow, that would have been a really interesting experience as a kid.
I was obsessed with Gilliam because of the Munchausen.
That's right. Yeah, you're a big Munchausen apologist. Okay,
I am. And the deal was, if I could see R-rated movies if I read the novelization in advance. And so before I saw this film, I read the novelization of The Fisher King.
Oh,
which
wow!
I picked up from a B. Dalton, which let me tell you, that's much weirder for a kid than just seeing the movie.
That's also a thing like pure 90s. Like,
Yeah.
I think there were novelizations in the 80s, but they were fewer and farther between and more obviously just tossed off. There's a brief moment when I feel like people put a modicum of effort or talent into making novelizations of major releases, and they would be sold in B. Dalton books. And that was, this is a movie that's very much in the VHS era. That a video store is an important setting for and plot point of this movie.
Absolutely.
As an aside, I worked in a B. Dalton for a little bit in college, and the stories I could tell, but that's not why we're here. I understand, but that was an interesting piece of my life there.
Bookstore job is a good job. I swear. If bookstore job paid well, I could have done that forever, I think.
I later worked at an independent bookstore, and I can tell you that was a much better experience. Working in a mall bookstore it's better than working in other mall stores. I can tell you that, but it's not.
It could be at Wetzel's Pretzels. That's. Well, here's another thing. Bookstore jobs compared to video store jobs. I think video store jobs now have a sense of nostalgia about them. Yeah. Probably in no small part because it's of the Quentin Tarantino origin story that defined a lot of the 90s and independent cinema and how we still think about those things.
Clerks is right there with it. Yep.
Yes, Clerks as well. But The Fisher King is more of its time in that it represents working in a video store as kind of a newfangled job where not everybody has a VCR even, but also kind of, it's not Empire Records here. They're not romanticizing the video store exactly. It is a crappy job that he works to represent how far he's fallen.
Yeah, he's bottoming out there.
Yes.
I'm not sure even he's really working too much there himself, but yeah, he's certainly there. I think we can say. So,
what is this movie? Do people know this movie at this point? Are we all too old to realize this movie has completely dropped off the cultural consciousness and no one knows what the Fisher King is, or is this sort of a small classic, semi-remembered film because of Robin Williams? What do you think?
It's probably even within our little slice of listenership, we probably need to remind people of the plot of this one, I would say. I saw this back in bits and pieces on HBO back when I was a kid. I don't know if I'd ever actually sat down and watched it all the way through before.
It's a big movie at the time. It was nominated for many Oscars. One big one, in fact. And,
which we'll talk about.
Yeah, a hit.
But so the plot of it is that Jeff Bridges plays a handsome Howard Stern, who's getting a shot at leading his own sitcom, but it's derailed because some mentally disturbed person, I guess, called into his show that he sort of egged on into saying some nasty things to, went on a shooting spree and killed several people the night before his big audition reading, whatever. And that derails his career, and he is then down and out. We flash forward a bit where he is living above the video store where he works, while he lives there with the owner of that video store who he's now dating, while he is out drinking and drinking himself into enough guts to commit suicide. He's attacked by some punks, and Robin Williams saves him. Robin Williams plays a crazy homeless person who we come to learn became crazy and homeless because his wife was shot in front of him by that spree shooter. And so Bridges decides that he needs to help out Robin Williams to pay his karmic debt.
Yep. I mean, that is basically the premise. Yeah. And also there's a whole bunch of Arthurian legend stuff in it.
Yeah. That's the first 15 minutes of the movie. In terms of plot, that's all. I was trying to condense the premise down.
There's actually quite a bit more plot.
There's a lot that dates the movie, but one of the things that was interesting to me that did was just what you said, Al, was that he's this really successful shock jock and he aspires to be a sitcom star. Well, I mean, that's a very 90s thing as well.
Yeah, now sitcom stars aspire to be podcasters.
Yeah.
Well, even this, I mean, this is before Seinfeld gets popular.
Yeah, it's 2 years before that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is old when it comes to media landscape stuff. So yeah, sitcom would still be king for most of any comedian really, or whatever this guy's self-stylized kind of persona is. I don't know. He almost predates Stern, so I guess they're kind of drawing on a Don Imus type or something like that.
Who's the who's the guy? Eric Bogosian played.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think he was probably. I can't remember the name of the actual shock jock. He was being, but I think that guy was also.
Imus is as far back as my knowledge can reach.
Well, Bogosian wrote Talk Radio, which is
Talk Radio. Yeah, that was based on.
I would think Imus, honestly.
I don't think it was. There was another guy I think it was based on, and I'm blanking out and I'm looking in to see.
Well, this mirrors my relationship to the Arthurian legend stuff in a way, because if Howard Stern is the King Arthur of shock jocks, Don Imus is sort of the Fisher King within that mythology. It's a name I know, but I don't really know any of the details about.
Mm-hmm. It's a previous generation of Stern, essentially.
Right.
With slightly more racist opinions, slightly more right wing kind of, but the same general. He wasn't an outright political figure. He was more of an entertainer.
Well, none of them were back in 91.
Well, I don't know. Rush's Limbaugh is starting out around then, I believe.
Oh, okay, yeah, but he's not a shock jock. He is coming at it from a political. Mm-hmm. The right wing people on AM radio are coming at it from an expressly political angle, and that they're going to bring some more entertainment to it. And then eventually, now we're in this place where entertainment is getting polluted from the political side. Mm-hmm. And it's all just coming together into a mush of people who are way too cool with Nazis. But
Early 90s, this character, Shock Jock, was not very cool either, though, is the thing. Like,
Well, he's
you
famous.
talk about being dated, this version of cool that Jeff Bridges is playing. I mean, yes, he's being an asshole, but this sort of cokehead Dennis Miller, Jeremy Piven style of radio disc jockey that he's performing feels, first off, very out of character for Jeff Bridges. It's kind of fun to see him do that, but it's also such a relic. Like, we would never put up with this guy if it weren't for the first half of the 1990s, the ponytail alone.
What's very strange about it is that the rant that sets off the guy is he's telling the guy how terrible yuppies are and how yuppie scum should all be killed, basically, or whatever. But isn't Jeff Bridges' character very yuppie coded in this movie, or is that intentional hypocrisy on the movie's part, or that in the depiction of the character? Or
That was my assumption.
am I misunderstanding something important about the relationship to yuppies in 1991 specifically?
No, that was my assumption as well. Is that, I mean, he clearly was. I mean, he was being driven around in a limo in a very expensive set of clothes with, an exquisitely precisely done hairdo with the very loose little line of hair coming down the middle of his face, and
It's quite good.
And my assumption was that was purposefully hypocritical and or blind on his part.
This character would absolutely be part of the 30-something ensemble. So he has to be a yuppie in that sense. But yeah.
I mean, he looks like he would. It's Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character in Christmas Vacation would rebound with this guy. But I just don't know if the movie wanted me to think that he was being knowingly hypocritical or if he was being oblivious to.
Oh, I think he was oblivious. I think we were supposed to know that. I don't think he did. I think he was pretty oblivious to all of that. I think my assumption, I think that the text of the movie to me is a little thin, but I mean, the assumption is that we're supposed to see him as a hypocrite, and he doesn't see himself as that until essentially the end of the movie, I suppose.
I think he sees himself as above the fray and above other people. Is essentially what it is. He is the superior kind of the sort of early 90s Ubermensch of sorts.
He definitely thinks highly of himself and of him, but all of that. I guess the focus of my question is, does he think of himself as a yuppie?
No.
When he's talking about, because it seems to me in that performance that his sort of disdain for yuppies is sincere enough in the way that, Shock Jock contempt for.
No, I don't think his character does. No.
I think he sees
who would he think of? Who does he think he's talking about? Is what that begs the question up for me. But we're getting very hung up on this.
People less authentic than him is essentially it. Like, people that don't have the warrior poet spirit that lives in his breast. This is, he's a guy who has a romanticized ideal version of himself, which is based on, getting laid and being popular. And
it does not conform with reality at all, which is exactly what we've learned how all comedians actually are and view themselves.
Well,
which is a shame.
It's aged in some ways, not in other ways, not at all.
I don't agree that he has a romanticized view of himself. I think Al was right. That I think he definitely thinks of himself as superior, but I don't think
he seems very stylized.
He does, but I mean, again, that's just him flaunting success. I don't know. I can see both. I'm going by the text of the film, but I'm also now changing my mind as I think about it. So
it's also just a little early for the first wave of what would officially be termed PC culture, and that's where I think that's where a lot of the comedians and the Bridges types in this movie latch on to. What makes me superior is I keep it realer than a lot of these other people.
I mean, I think that another thing we're up against is that none of us were more than children when this movie came out. Even you,
that's
Michael.
that's
you.
not no. Right? Is 23 a child? I mean, I was 23.
More or less.
Yeah.
I mean,
where I'm sitting, it is now.
From where I'm standing now, hell yes, it is. But I mean, back then, yeah.
and there were definitely patterns and norms and cultural figures that this is riffing on. I'm sure that aren't going to immediately come to our mind, but I don't know. For me, this was the creation of the trope, essentially, of the shock jock, such as it is.
No, I mean, I can tell you back then it was
little kid.
Right, but I mean, as a legal adult who saw it, when it was released on VHS, that was not a new trope for us then. I mean, it was, I think Stern was big then. In fact, they tried to get him to be a consultant for the movie, but he wanted to make them pay for his tapes and they didn't want to. So he said, fuck off. So, so he was big then. And I mean, I agree that I don't think Limbaugh.
So strange to think that Howard Stern and Terry Gilliam did not have an immediately fruitful and harmonious professional relationship.
Well, it was odd to me too to think that they needed to pay to get his tapes, because that again is a cultural thing. Like now, you could find anything you wanted on him anywhere, so without having to pay for it. So, but yeah,
well, you know how Gilliam thinks of this character in these scenes he says, as a sorcerer in a tower. Like a figure hermetically sealed away. He's isolated from everybody, and that's the entirety of Jack before his fall, is that he's isolated. He has no connection to the people he's speaking to. They're just. I
mean, that's very consistent with the Arthurian stuff going on.
Precisely. There's so much like Arthurian overlay in this film, and just the shot selections and things like that.
But to me, visually, what was really interesting about that opening sequence was the shadows on the wall of the studio.
Oh yeah,
because they look like
Dr. Caligari shit going on.
They're prison bars.
Yes.
So it's, to me, that doesn't map, clearly to Arthurian stuff. But I mean, like, to me, the film, again, Gilliam's not a subtle filmmaker, so like this is very much telling us this guy's in a prison of his own making. And
well, he's the king who is also a prisoner. He's the Fisher King, as it were. So yeah, this is the first 5 minutes of the film. David Hyde Pierce is his agent. That's fun. Credited as David Pierce. Worth noting.
You get a Kathy Najimy sighting. As the irritating video customer.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say Michael Jeter with a very showy role there too.
We'll get Mr. Jeter. Yeah,
I had to check if it was him, because my memory of him is from Open Range. So like, is that him? So I checked, and of course it was. So
a phenomenal actor. One of the greats, and just such a varied career. Amazing he's doing this stuff in as early as he is. Brilliant career. We'll talk about him when we get to him. Okay, so another thing about this movie that is established very early on is its New York bona fides. This is a very, very big deal New York movie, I think. That it is shot in New York. It's full of New York locations, found ones that remind you of the Middle Ages as best they can. But also, I think, just in the sort of economic life of this film, it is very concerned with specifically New York stuff, where you will see, just a famous rich person, walking down the street right next to the craziest homeless man you've ever seen, essentially. Yeah. It's an old David Cross bit, essentially. There is such a wild difference in the people who live in Manhattan and who walk to work every day next to each other, or do not work, as it were. And it's just part of the living here that you are constantly in contact with all different sizes or all different speeds of economic success or failure. Like every kind of person is represented. And that's the world of this show, of this movie.
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting is I have such a hard time with nailing this movie down to a genre.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a romantic melodrama largely about like mental illness and homelessness issues, that I'm also going to praise later on the romance for being more grounded than I'm used to in some ways. So it's a little hard to play it down there, but as a New York movie, it definitely goes on that shelf.
Oh yeah. This is one of the reasons I moved to New York. This movie.
So is it really about homelessness and mental health, or is it about grief? Because I read this as a whole metaphor on grief, with using the homeless, with using mental illness more as kind of inroads. But to me, it doesn't feel like it's about them.
It's using it so extensively, though, that you might say it's misusing them by
I probably
making it seem like nobody's homeless except for they have some horrible, traumatic, violent issue in their past that put them on the street. But I mean, this is. Is there a more homeless movie that I have ever seen that has more prominently features more homeless characters? I don't know. Like,
It's a tough one, man. Because this is, I would have to say this is a movie about homelessness, and there's not a lot of other things you put on that shelf, so to speak.
You could do a double feature with They Live, I guess.
You could.
They're
both
both kind of
very interesting,
Yeah.
actually. But it is struggling throughout, I believe, to kind of thread that knot and not be exploitive, because it's not ultimately about homelessness. It is about grief and mental illness more. Madness is probably the phrase I'd use. Madness is big for the next 3 films. He's kind of, we just ended the sort of imagination trilogy of Time Bennett's Brazil and Munchausen, and now we get deep into some madness with the Hollywood movies, and it's a lot of asylums.
I say, Terry Gilliam really loves his asylums. He really does.
And I like that they're in the British style, which is that you will see sort of gibbering loons in them occasionally. Well, which is some of the least sensitive things you can present them as. But
that was one thing when you talked about this being a New York movie. I was curious because I had a blast because I traveled to New York 2.5 years ago for the first time, and I was really loved to see stuff that I've been to and recognize in person. But I know that New York City went through a big cleanup. I don't know if it was late 80s or early 90s at some point, but I was I just wondered how much of that at the time where they were shooting, how much of that was stuff that they had to cart in to make look bad, and how much of it was, this is just what it looks like here in 1990 when they shot the movie.
Is pretty bad in 1990 from what I understand. It was before.
At the same time, I don't think Terry Gilliam does a lot of guerrilla, shooting. Every shot of his movies is production designed to the millimeter.
Okay.
Even this one, which is a lot of locations.
Yeah.
But, I would say, the homeless encampments under the bridges don't specifically look like Dante's Inferno quite as much as they do in this film. Yeah. There's a lot more verticality in this movie than there is in real life.
Yeah, I think that stuff is, I mean, the asylum, most of all, is set designed within an inch of its life.
Well, I was specifically wondering about the few scenes set underneath the bridge, and I'm like, I had a sneaking suspicion all those wrecked cars are not really there, but I feel like some of the other scenes felt pretty authentic. Although I don't know, because I just was like, I don't know what New York was like then.
Well, I mean, there's so much actual location shooting here, and it seems to be at least somewhat geographically consistent. Mm-hmm. Not that really matters, but a lot of the stuff it seems to be around the park, basically, and that's where people live. At least in the 90s, they did. Not anymore. Now it's but
this is. But the trouble I have in this movie, I can't nail this movie down. I get to the point where I have not nailed down whether I really like it or not. But authenticity is such a strange word to try to apply to this movie.
Absolutely, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane in its design, in the plot construction, the melodrama of it, and yet there are these moments, and there are these bits. The Michael Jeter character is so overwrought in their presentation and everything, and then he's got the little aside about when after Bridges asks him, kind of out of frustration, so when you went insane, does it all at once, or was it more of a gradual thing? And he explains I did this and also I saw my friends get sick and die. And he says that that it's not mumblecore by any means. It's so overwrought and so melodramatic, and yet it touches these raw nerves occasionally like that.
That's this movie, man. Yep.
I say in a movie that is full of very unsubtle moments, that was actually a really beautiful little subtle one, because it doesn't explain it. It just kind of says it, and you have to know what he's referring to, and then just moves on. So that was a nice little moment. I'm not with you, Al. I know how I feel about the movie. I think it's a really interesting movie. I don't want to skip to the end, but I think it doesn't cohere for me. So when you talk about what kind of movie it is, I think it tends to want both the fantasy and the realism too much at the same time, and I think it ends up not ultimately gelling because of that. I don't think they ever manage to work in tandem smoothly.
We talked about in a couple of in one of these other episodes a comment that Gilliam make in an interview about how what he's trying to get to is fantasy that's not escapist, fundamentally, and how that's almost a contradiction in terms, but not
Right.
quite.
No,
And,
that makes sense, and that really fits this movie. I feel like, yeah.
I mean, for me, this movie is not really a fantasy. I mean, there's obvious, fantastical elements to it, but they're not presented as reality. They are mental illness manifestations.
Oh, I'd agree.
Yeah.
I would not categorize this anyway as a fantasy at all.
but it's presented in with high fantasy dressing so much that
Very
I do
much.
think you could put it in the fantasy pile, and I wouldn't, take it.
Well,
accordingly.
if I were making
Over
a list
my
of
dead
Arthurian
body, Al.
movies, if I were making a list of movies about the King Arthur legend, this would
Yes.
definitely go on that.
Yeah,
list.
that would.
You
But
know?
I'm with John in that I feel like because the movie so explicitly makes those elements clearly a manifestation of Perry's grief and mental illness, that any other elements that we experience through Jack, we know that they're not real. They're more talked about. So like that definitely goes in the King Arthur mythos pile, I guess, but it doesn't for me go in the fantasy pile. Like this is not Excalibur kind of movie. That's definitely
No.
a fan. Yeah.
No, although, but obviously they share some motifs and
Correct.
and lore. You know what? That just made it occur to me. If you were making this movie today, not a remake, but just for the first time, how this would go through the machine, and it would come out as an A24 movie, where the fantastical elements are presented as more like, but it seems like it's real. Like Jeff Bridges doesn't believe it at first, but then by the end, he is doing things like it ends like The Witch, where like, oh, the Holy Grail really did cure him and all. And then people on the internet get to write their theories of like, oh, it's all hallucination though. That's what you don't understand. And at the end, it's just Jeff Bridges has been sucked into Perry's hallucination and now is sharing it, but he's lost his mind too. And it's all yada yada. In the 90s, it's completely reversed. It just shows you that, the character is seeing this, it's definitely not real, but we're presenting it on screen and blah, blah, blah. And now the way art house movies work and the way internet criticism works is people want to be bringing that that it was all a dream interpretation to it, quote unquote, themselves.
Well, I mean, if you're looking for the genre, if you're looking for the kind of film this is, I think that if you look at the 90s and the movies that were coming out, you'll see more movies that you can slot next to this easily. And I kind of mean like sort of lengthy melodramas with Oscar turns from big actors, playing a character that is altered or different or sees the world differently in some way, and that gives him a sense of wisdom or sort of serenity or power. Movies like Scent of a Woman would fall into
Rain
this
Man.
category. Or Rain Man, yes. A lot of Robin Williams films. Quite a few Robin Williams films. This was a genre unto itself. It was a pathway to Academy Awards, which this film is nominated for. Robin Williams is nominated for this role. And it would make more sense in that context. I think what raises this one for me is the Arthurian element to it, the fantastical part of it, and that frames it as a fable. That makes it more. I'm not hung up on the sort of unreality of how reality is presented here. First off, it's not the world of Brazil. This is recognizably New York, 1990, but beyond that, when Jeff Bridges does the thing he does at the end of this film, for example, it feels like the end of a narrative. It is the end of a fable. It is a character resolution for him to climb that tower on Central Park West, which is an insane thing to do. That if you're getting into the nitty gritty of these people as real figures, he's never going to do. He's not going to climb a belay rope 200 feet over the New York City street, dressed as Robin Williams at the beginning of the film. But I'm able to buy that because it's a fable. It is, explicitly dealing with, issues of morality and what kind of person you are and what you accept into your life, And I think the big idea here is connection and love versus isolation and power. That is the dichotomy. And, it's a movie, of course, created by, emotional people. So it's going to lean towards, inclusion and love and connection is what the Grail represents here. It's fully myth and fully fable, even if it's based in the real world.
That is interesting because I want to say the exact opposite about this movie.
Really?
Well,
Look at the Grand Army Plaza Waltz for its. I mean, it's all like.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you on the facts.
Okay.
I'm saying the thing that I think I like best about this movie is the Mercedes Rule character and how unusually grounded I found the relationship stuff with Bridges and her, and how that contrasts with that elevated fable stuff, I guess. But this is what's been sticking with me for the last week or two after I watched this. I mean, one, it's a really good performance. She won the Oscar for it, as we said. Mm-hmm. But for as big and melodramatic as this movie is in its exploration of grief and trauma, and then it's got the very mannered Hollywood romance like stuff that's only is a pure movie stuff between Amanda Plummer and Robin Williams characters.
Yeah, I wouldn't deny that. No.
And then Bridges and Rule's relationship is presented in such a, for me, unconventional way for a Hollywood romance, that it's not grandiose and it's not super explicit, but it's clear at the beginning she kind of picked him up when he was in the gutter, had fallen down, and therefore he kind of feels like he's slumming it with her. Oh yeah. And then at parts it seems like she's kind of there's a way of interpreting it, which I think you would get a few years later up through to now, which is no, she's slumming it with him by accepting this. And I don't think you could not possibly make this movie in the 21st century without a scene where she monologues to him about how she deserves better. And
it's kind of
yada.
I mean, it's a very good scene. It's done with more verisimilitude than I think you would see now, maybe. But
that's what I mean. It's like the only part of the movie where verisimilitude really comes into it for me. I mean, and yet that makes such a contrast with everything else that it really made an impression on me.
I think for me too, and I think that very groundedness of that relationship to me is what, for me, worked against it in the movie, because I hadn't gone as broad as considering it entirely a fable as John had, but I see that as you talk about it. But I still, for me, I felt as a viewer, and I just watched it last night, was I did really feel like the fable elements with those grounded elements were they were in conflict with each other, and not on purpose, but again, because the relationship with Mercedes Rule and Jeff Bridges is really grounded and almost to a point where sometimes it was uncomfortable. And I think especially watching in 2026, I'm like, girl, you should not be with him. and again, that's where one of the film's failures for me was, I never was rooting for that relationship, because I never felt like it was a healthy, good, loving relationship. And I don't even mean 2026 now. I never got the sense that I never got the reason why she liked him or loved him in the first place.
Because he's Jeff Bridges in his early 30s. I'm
but
pretty sure is the implication.
That's a reason to sleep with him. That's not a reason to love him. And I definitely never felt like Jack ever loved her. And I mean, and it's okay that he doesn't, but the movie wants us to root for that to be together. I'm like, no. Mm-hmm. I mean, my rewrite of the movie is almost taking Amanda Plummer and Mercedes Rule out of it and making almost this Shawshank platonic romance between these two men. And that's what saves them, is a relationship with each other that helps bring them. I mean, some of that.
I think that's kind of what it is anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. Here's what I would do if I and this, with the proviso that I actually like the Amanda Plummer material in this film. I think she's really great in it.
She's very good.
That is the thing I would probably lift out. The sitcom matchmaker sequence in the middle where they're trying to hook up Perry here, which honestly it feels like a little like one thing too much. To be adding to this, and essentially he's grasping at straws of a way to fix Perry, because that's what he wants,
Right.
really.
Right.
And so it has to be something. I just think it's going to be very difficult to believably match off Robin Williams in this role with another human being. And I think that's why it's kind of genius that they go with Amanda Plummer. She is just as fucking weird.
I get that the friendship between Jack and Perry is redemptive, but again, because the movie puts so much emphasis on the romantic relationships, again, that's why for me it doesn't entirely work. And I
wouldn't take out the Mercedes rule. I mean, that's.
I don't want to, but again, I don't think it works. I just don't think it works.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you as much as you might think here, because I think what I'm reacting to is showing this movie, because I think what your perspective is more that the Rule and Bridges relationship is ultimately like aspirational, because that's how Hollywood presents romance generally. And I'm reacting to it as it's so weird and oddly refreshing to me to see an adult romance that is realistic enough for me to buy, but is not particularly aspirational. It's not inspiring in its details. And at the end, it's not like I said, the impulse there is strong to have, like, when he comes back to her at the end, that he should grovel to her, that he should give her a speech about how he didn't appreciate what an amazing, Guinevere to his Arthur she really was all along. But it's actually more what I think a relationship like that, which these relationships exist in the world and, function. They're not necessarily these dirty, grubby things that Hollywood movies would have Bridges be the guy that she has to leave
right
to get to the Baxter or whatever. But the fact that he's just kind of like, I thought about it and I kind of think you're right about loving you. And that's like as far as he can get it in that moment. And she can't help herself. She's like very excited to have finally gotten that. And again, that's not super empowering, not super inspiring. And yet, I don't know. Maybe it's just we talk about movie brain on this podcast sometimes. Just seeing a different spin on something sometimes can be so refreshing.
It is 100% 1991 movie brain. Or movie trope right there. I recognize it. It's just it's tough. It's just tough. It's even less it being 2026. It's just tough being older and watching the movie and going, wow, those are really fucked up. Yeah, this is a really fucked up relationship, and they probably need to not be together. But
here's
they probably shouldn't. But if they stay together, not necessarily the worst relationship or the least compatible relationship I've ever seen. Like go the distance.
He needs to have changed at the end. Is the thing. He needs to have something to point at to be like he's a better man now.
But
and
I think
he's implied to be rejecting sort of the celebrity that life once again, but he's still on the radio. He's back on the radio at the end.
That's another thing about the movie that to me just works against it, because he's got this yo-yo kind of really weird arc where he, he's an asshole, then he's sort of not, then he's an asshole, then he's sort of not, and it's to me the redemptive moment is more when he's at the asylum and like leading the singing. That is way more powerful than him and kind of slinking back to Mercedes Rule and I kind of love you. It's like that was a lot. Yeah.
Well, that is the primary relationship, but he can't just dump Mercedes Rule at the end because he's better off. He's not changed. Then he has completed an arc that will not allow for that.
Yeah.
I mean, just in strictly semiotic movie terms, I don't think we can accept that because, she is the most likable character in the film. Like she is probably the character with audience sympathy more than anyone.
In conventional script doctor terms, the way to fix that, I think, is just that. Because you're right, the stuff in the asylum leading it, that is a better cinematic moment. And it also is the culmination of the Robin Williams Bridges stuff, which is more the spine. Yeah. But the way I think you fix that up a bit so that it goes down easier is that he slinks back there. He does a bit of more elaborate apology to her. He doesn't even ask to get back together, but he says, you were right. You did a lot of good for me, and I wish you the best, and blah blah blah. And I'll leave you alone. And then she's like, "Hey, you want to buy me a cup of coffee when I'm off tonight, or whatever?" And that you end on that, and that I think would go down smoother in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But this, I said, what is spiky about this to me is that uneasy relationship between the almost like, I don't know, that's like something out of a 70s kind of downer movie, that relationship. And that it sits so uneasily with the Arthurian legend and the broadness of the Robin Williams stuff and the broadness of everything else in the movie, really.
But again, that's kind of what I'm saying, is that that specificity to me is not always grafting really well with that broad, more mythic tone.
Welcome to our Terry Gilliam series.
Well, yeah.
No, it's fun. I mean, and what's great about him is that he's an artist that works on a high wire, and it does not land it perfectly every time, and that gives it some stakes to these for me in a meta way.
What just hit me as you guys talk about the movie is, I think for me, the film, I think, shortchanges what I would consider satisfying. I'm not gonna say realistic, but satisfying emotional or story development for imagery. Because I'm thinking specifically, even in the end, Robin Williams, his character is in this self-imposed coma, and he wakes up because he gets the grail. And I understood the imagery, and I understand what the grail stands for, and I can even pull back on my own formerly religious life and pull a lot into it. But to me, the film doesn't earn that. Like, the film doesn't get there for me. Like, I get the imagery, but I don't feel like it quite gets that moment. And I even like, one thing that I kept waiting for, because I didn't remember the film that well, was when's the moment that Jack tells Perry his role in his wife's death? And we don't get it ever. Mm-hmm. And that's a really weird thing to leave out when it's so central to the movie.
It's also something that, where do you put it? Because it's not like Perry could be unaware.
Well, Perry is unaware. Perry is unaware that his wife was killed, that he had a wife, essentially. It is compartmentalized into the Red Knight.
Yeah.
I suppose.
He has had a break with reality.
I mean, I kept waiting for that conversation, and of course it never comes. And that to me, that's a really weird gun to leave on the mantelpiece for me in this story.
It is interesting, but I mean, Robin is such a profoundly broken character in this.
Yeah.
Like, you forget that because of all the silly stuff that he's doing. And there's a couple runs that are, I don't think, correctly calculated.
Calibrated.
Yeah. A couple, maybe. Like the one where he's going to pull out his dick on Mercedes Rules table. I'm just like, this shouldn't be in the film.
Yeah.
That's an ejection, worthy kind of penalty there. That's you leave
Cut
the house,
this scene, Mr. Gorbachev. Yeah, but for the most part, he's playing he's doing a thing that is specifically about that there is a veneer of unreality that he has applied, in that is his psychosis, essentially, is that he has made himself a simpler character. He is a Don Quixote character. In fact, the first time this has been brought up in the Gilliam discussion.
I don't know. I mean, there's a little bit of Quixote and Sam in Brazil,
and in Baron Munchausen. It's always there a little, but now we're like fully Quixote. We are in it now. This is sort of the story that haunts his entire career, and this is maybe the first explicit version of it that happens. But it is a guy who is rejecting reality because the chivalric code of medieval knights is easier. It is more comfortable. It makes more sense. And I mean, you'll forget that the novel Don Quixote is not on Quixote's side. He is a figure of it's mocking him, essentially.
Yes, he's an absurd figure.
Uh-huh.
So was both your guys reading on this then, that Perry has completely repressed the memory of his wife even when he's in his earlier mode?
I think he's a different person entirely. I think.
My read is that he's successfully repressing it, except in those extreme moments. And when the Red Knight shows up, as we see, and this has been something I want to talk about. I mean, the more he sees the Red Knight, and in a sense, the way he's more with Jack, the more he remembers. So, I mean, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. Well, whenever anyone tries to bring it up to him, whenever he's reminded of his old life in any way, that's when the Red Knight shows up. It's not subtle.
Yeah. And Speaking of remembering,
No, the
that's
8
right.
foot
Well,
tall like Hell Knight is not subtle. You're right.
right. Yeah. Speaking of remembering, I'm still sort of processing the whole his wife's brains hitting him in the face scene because I was like, that was. I mean, like,
Wild.
I mean, I literally kind of Jesus Christ to myself in the room when I was watching it. And I just started laughing too. I'm like, because it's so unlike the rest of the film, and it's the only scene of violence we get in the movie. And I was like, to me, it didn't fit, and to the point that like I just felt like it became comical because I was like, it was so over the top that.
Oh no, that's definitely his Monty Python likeness is coming
Yeah.
out in that shot a little bit.
Right, but I don't think it should be. I think that's supposed to be a moment we're not supposed to ultimately end up laughing at. I think we're supposed to feel the pain, and I think that the fake bit of brain hitting him in the face,
In the mouth.
in the mouth. It's like
Yeah.
I just.
Well,
It shouldn't. I shouldn't be laughing about it right now. I should be horrified.
It is. I don't
Maybe
know,
it's
man.
supposed to be oversaturated redness there to connect it visually to the Red Knight.
It is exactly what
probably
the Red Knight looks like.
What the
The Red-
intention is. Yeah.
Yes, the Red Knight looks like a shotgun blast of
Yeah.
gore. So
Yeah.
yes, that's exactly the idea.
But I agree with Michael. It is comical in its execution there. I mean, no pun intended with the word execution even. But like and I do have a hard time saying like
that
how these things should be because this movie is doing this tonal thing, this genre thing
Right.
that is pretty unique. And so I have a hard time nailing down exact I know it's trying to draw that connection. I don't think it quite works.
Well,
I'm not sure what that means it should be.
for me that sequence falls. That occurs when Robin Williams is being stalked by depression through the streets of New York and ultimately struck down. And that I don't know. That one's tough for me to watch now. So that whole scene is a little bit, I don't know. I'm on edge during it for sure. It has a sort of a frisson to it that it didn't before. No, for me.
Well, now unfortunately, just a mass shooting event is now such
Shit. Yeah. Uh-huh.
it's such a pedestrian trauma for us these days.
Yeah.
This scene,
Unfortunately, it is, yeah.
it's fucked up. But the most fucked up thing about this is how like, this seems like a real overreaction to a thing that happens twice a week in all for 20 years now.
Well, I mean, contextually, it didn't happen back then. Nearly as much.
Yeah, exactly. It's a totally different time.
No. I actually got off because the difference in our worlds, the sad difference is, part of me was thinking, how did he manage to kill 14 people with a shotgun before somebody stopped him? Because I was like, that's two shells, man. You got to stop and reload. How did that? I mean, the movie doesn't. You shouldn't question the movie that deeply, and I know that. I'm not. That's not a mistake on the movie's part. It was just more of a cultural thing.
Yeah, it's Look, we're getting right into the thick of Robin Williams' performance here, which is, I think, a pretty notable one. No matter where you fall on it, it's a swing for the fences piece of work going on in this, and yeah, an Oscar nomination. I think maybe his first. No, Dead Poets was his first, but he's in the pocket now. And
No, but he did, Good Morning Vietnam was before this, and he got.
Oh God, that was that too. He was just okay.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, all over.
Yeah.
That's actually another weird line that this movie straddles, where it's one of the first Robin Williams serious actor shifts, but he's not at all in the button down Dead Poet Society Good Will Hunting quiet mode. He's still it's dramatic Robin Williams, but just as manic and broad as Mork from Mork.
Mm-hmm. Well, how do you guys feel about this? I think this is essential casting. I don't think you could. I think this movie demands an actor like this. Maybe
I agree. I don't think anybody else
demands Robin Williams.
I don't think anybody else at the time could have done that. I don't know who now could have done it, but I mean, I know for sure.
Mm-hmm. This is a perfect choice for this role.
I agree.
I mean, if you wanted to get an award nomination or any sort of box office, then yes. I don't know. Is there a version? Could you do a version of this where it's Bobcat Goldthwait or something?
I mean, you could.
Maybe.
Artistically, maybe. Yeah. But even
it's
still,
even less commercial than this.
There's a cuddliness to Robin Williams, even as he legitimately looks covered in filth, and smelly and gross in this. Like he's kind of allowing this character to play both realities that the movie wants in a way that is just sort of effortless. You know, like
100%. Well,
there on screen. You know,
it's going to say 100% except for the effortless. Nothing in Robin Williams' career is effortless. I mean, I guess Good Will Hunting shows it the least, maybe. But
do you like this performance though, Al? This the Robin Williams of it. I mean, I get why he was nominated. I probably would have picked Bridges over him, but I do think it's essential casting.
Yes, I do think. Like I said, for all the reasons I've gone into, this is a near impossible movie to actually pull off. And you need Robin Williams or, I guess, another, it's somewhat of a contradiction in terms, but similarly unique performer for it. Somebody else who has their own larger-than-life shtick. That they can
I can see the Jim Carrey version. I can see the Jim Carrey version. It's not good, but I can imagine. You know.
Can you see the Rodney Dangerfield version?
No.
I was thinking of people like maybe the Dice Clay. No, Dice Clay should have been Jeff Bridges, I guess. With Andrew Dice Clay and Bobcat Goldthwait. That's the non-award-winning version of this.
Oh God.
I mean, Williams is excellent in it. I mean, and that's not surprising. And I agree. It's a role that's him. To me, the issue is the writing. And again, I think ultimately, even taking it as a metaphor for grief, even take it as a fable, I think it's still too much of romanticizing a mental illness. Like, I just feel like it's too much of the, the crazy person is really secretly wise. And I think even in 1991, that was a little bit, it's a little bit, And I mean, I get it. That's why I classify this as a metaphor for grief, and I steer away from it being about mental illness, because I don't really think it's about. I think mental illness is a tool used in the film, but I don't think it's really about that. And I don't think it's successfully about grief either. I mean, I think it's about it. I just don't think it has. I don't think it's a really powerful thing to say about it, other than it's an interesting way.
I don't think it's actually about any of those things at its core.
What do you think it's about?
Forgiveness. And grace,
healing is key to the Fisher King legend.
Yeah, like being able to get over the bad things that happen in your life.
But the grief is what they need to be healed from.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for certain. But not Jack. I mean, Jack's the protagonist here. Like, we're trying to facilitate Perry's healing, but the main character of this story is Jack, and his is the arc that is what the story is informing. And he can't. I mean, he is suicidally depressed because he's a piece of shit, and he has to find grace to kind of get beyond that. And that's, for me, that's why the movie works. Is the Jeff Bridges character.
And it isn't interesting that the sitcom character he's going for in the beginning of the movie, the trademark saying of that character is "Forgive me."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's saying it like when he's rehearsing it early on. It's just this sort of empty recitation, and it's meaningless.
But again, that's what I'm saying. I think we're robbed of a scene, because I think that's what's missing for me, is because he goes after Perry because he feels this personal connection of guilt. And to me, the absolution comes from that personal connection, and it's not explicit. To me, it's not explicit enough. And I feel like that would have made it a lot more powerful. I feel like visually we get why it happens. I just don't think on an emotional level, I don't think it works. Not for me, at least.
Well, fair enough. I mean, I understand.
Yeah,
I'm with it.
I agree. It's pitched a little too high for me there. And again, there are the moments there. I mean, the moment when he tells Mercedes Rule, like, God, I just wish there was a way I could pay the fine and go home.
Oh yeah, like exactly
one of the most real sentiments I've ever heard.
Yeah,
that's it. There was a kerfuffle like a week ago about David saying that about Me Too stuff. And that's part of the conundrum. And growing up Catholic, you used to realize like that is the primal appeal of confession.
Yeah,
is that for all the fucked up things about Catholicism and the church, one of the great appeals is that you can get a clean bill of spiritual health by doing this and that and paying your penance. This movie's about how that's not so clear cut ever,
right,
in reality.
Yeah. That's a great way of framing it. I think in that metaphor, I think that. What we are missing is that clear confession of that.
Mm-hmm.
But
that scene when he goes and visits Robin Williams at the asylum, and it's just it's a scene from Awakenings, essentially,
Right.
another film of this stripe, came out the year before, where Williams is catatonic, and he's like, I'm not going to go steal this fucking cup for you because I know that's bullshit. I think that's the Oscar clip for me, but that's sort of the crux of the character coming around and finding his path to it. And yes, this is a Terry Gilliam movie, accepting
That's
the
a Bridges highlight reel. I agree.
yeah, oh, he's good in it. But the fact that what he ultimately has to do is buy into Perry's nonsense. Even if he doesn't totally believe it, but he finds himself in this medieval castle, essentially, with really notably the Red Knight, represented in stained glass there.
So addressing this scene you just talked about with, with Jack addressing Perry as Perry's comatose.
Yeah.
Again, I got the whole point. I guess I felt like, to me, by the time we got to that point, it felt almost pro forma. Like it didn't feel earned. Like I didn't feel like I had gotten to the point where I believed Jack was on a real emotional drive. I felt like the movie set up, okay, we're at this point, so now Jack needs to go do this because, of course, that's how he's going to do it.
Well, everything he does in this film is about seeking some form of redemption and just forgiveness for his shit. Like he wants to kill himself at the beginning. He's straight up driving to the he's got that monologue at the base of Grand Army Plaza with the Pinocchio in his hands. I love that, by the way. The gift from the Plaza Boy of a wooden Pinocchio doll. It's such a weird little detail to throw in there. But I guess similarly, kind of, it's just sort of the broad Gilliam kind of mythologizing it, and see, he's a Pinocchio figure. I'm like, okay, yeah, I thank you. He wants to be a real boy, I guess. Big broad swings here.
Yeah.
Any movie with Robin Williams doing this shit is going to live and die there, essentially. Yeah.
Like I said, I thought it was a really interesting film, and I think there's a lot going on. It did never resonate with me at an emotional level. Like, it never got me there. And I've been thinking about this as a thing for grief, but the more you talk about it, I think you've swung me over to agreeing with you that it's about forgiveness. And I feel like without the confession and without, I think, a clear insight into his emotional arc, I just don't feel like we get there in a satisfying way. We get there in a plot way, in a visual way, but
Well, he has that relapse where he's an asshole again,
right?
Which muddies the waters for certain.
Right, it does.
Yeah,
and we don't get the sense that he actually gave up being a DJ when he went back to Mercedes Royalty, and it's like he could still be being the asshole DJ and come back to her. So it's like that it does muddy it for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's also it feels like a very abrupt and short relapse for him.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I mean, I think that the issue here is there's just too much.
Yeah.
Ultimately, in this movie, that there's his relationship to being a shock jock, yuppie, go-getter 80s guy who may or may not have bonitis is one thing. And then his relationship with Mercedes Rule is another, and his relationship to Perry is another, and to Perry's sort of fantastical thinking. And then there's the romance with Amanda Plummer. I don't know. Ultimately, it's one or two too many ingredients, and especially since so many of them are set at such a high pitch, it's really hard to land all of them.
We haven't talked about this, which is a little not shocking, but we've been talking about really good stuff. But I do need to say, I did not remember the Grand Central
oh my God,
sequence, and that was just amazing and really beautiful. I mean, it just was and I guess it wasn't originally scripted that way. It was a scripted much different way that Perry sees somebody singing, and they decided, I guess, kind of last minute, Gilliam said, "No, let's do this instead." And
last
so we
minute,
get that.
geez.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the most incredible pieces of staging I've seen in a film. I mean, just if you know Grand Central, obviously, they can't shut that place down. I imagine they did this at 3 a.m. or something, but even still,
but they did it between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. I think is when they filmed it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's an insane thing to see. It's just
that's how the story goes. They didn't decide on that until they were on the location, and he was like, stood up on the balcony looking down on it and came up with this idea, which turns out to be the most iconic, memorable sequence in the movie. It made it his whole filmography.
And I will say, having been there, it was that made that scene even more powerful. I mean, having stood in that space. And
that's the whole thing about Grand Central is that if you actually go in there, it is a flow. There is sort of a dance to just the way people move through that space in rush hour, because it's thousands of people literally crossing one space, sort of determinatively on their way to a place, and there's just patterns. If you do climb up on the stairs and look down, it looks like that. It's amazing. Yeah. Not quite as as dreamlike and kind of gorgeous as it does in this film, of course, but yeah, I mean that's also, I think, as it plays out, it's such a significant moment. I think you have to connect it to the theme of the film, and what that is connection. It is seeing the way that we are that we are in a symbiosis lifestyle with everyone else around us, especially in a place like New York, and that is what Perry just kind of sees on his own, and the exact opposite of how Jack sees himself. It's immediately preceded by a Tom Waits cameo that rules too. Probably the best thing about homelessness in that film is the Tom Waits cameo.
I mean, the concept of homelessness has had no greater salesman or advocate than Tom Waits in the history of shelter. Like half of his discography is about being a hobo riding the rails, and it fucking rules.
Yeah. Dad, what you call it a moral traffic light, really. It's like everything comes out of his mouth in that scene, man. That's a pretty great moment of the film.
Yeah. So he's paying because so we don't have to look. That's
yep. So
that's it. This movie is kind of about homelessness in those ways. It's just again, homelessness is such a hard thing to get your arms around and to not present. Like part of the reason why I think movies don't tend to
one of the many
touch on it is that doing it without romanticizing it and without pathologizing it or making it into they're possessed by demons or whatever it's a hard needle to thread. I don't think this movie does it, but I
like the devil's advocate.
Yes. That's one of the ways that it manifests on screen. And I don't think this movie nails, gives us a prescription for the problem of
it's
a lack of housing or anything.
It's not about that, actually, is the thing.
Right.
Like, I mean, it is it's part of Perry's problem, is he's too insane to hold down a job or an address.
But technically, he's not homeless.
Well, he's got he's sort of got a place.
I'm just saying.
But that's the thing. They wrote to the character, and the character is going to spend a lot of his time just sort of being crazy on the street.
Yes.
So ultimately, you're making a movie about the homeless, then.
Right.
Yeah. But that's my point is just I also think that one of the big mistakes that we make in the modern day, as though I'm in the industry or whatever, but movies is if we can't express this thing perfectly, if we can't represent this difficult issue or present this demographic group in uncriticizable terms, we just won't put them on screen at all. And I think actually that does a bigger disservice than putting up a depiction that is messy but empathetic like this.
I mean, yeah, this movie has balls. There's no question. It's going for it. It would not get made today, as you say. And I mean, I think that there probably is something that if you were to be honest, that the screenwriter Richard Gravenese probably wrote this after or got the concept for this probably after examining his own reaction to walking by a homeless person. I mean, the movie has that feeling a little bit. It I mean, I'm putting words in his mouth there, obviously, but I mean, that is something, especially in a city like New York, that you are going to kind of constantly be grappling with in one way or another. It is something that does touch you, and if you have sort of a moral compass of any kind, you are going to have to interrogate your relationship to it. You know, that's just necessary in their existence alone, and that's what the movie I think is tilting at a little bit. I mean, it's sort of Don Quixote and the windmill in that regard. You know, it can't actually hit that if it's about all this other stuff. But I mean, it feels like the genesis of this at any rate.
I can certainly, but like something feels true to me about that. It feels like this was a concept that started with examining, you know, a particular reaction to or relationship to a homeless person and homelessness. And then partly just because that's such a difficult thing to do, it ends up getting pulled in like 4 or 5 other different, more conventional directions.
Now it's about, you know, it's just some sort of humanities department.
And now it's a dueling romantic comedy, like relationship drama. And you're not sure which one is the romance subplot serving the homeless relationship, or is that relationship serving the romance?
With
plots?
an overlay of man's relationship to God and grace, by the way, through a medieval filter. It's wild. There's also like, but the thing is, there's the top to bottom moments and images and sequences in this film that are so remarkable on their own, just in isolation. You know, the Waits cameo, the Red Knight sequences, the Michael Jeter performance, and his big Broadway number that they just give him in the middle of the film. All that's wonderful stuff. He's such a good actor, Michael Jeter, man. He said we were going to talk about him, and maybe now this performance. This is such a great little cameo. He's sort of the master of doing these. It's amazing to me how on point he was even back then, because I know him from a lot of his work. He goes on to make Evening Shade after this, you know, the television show sitcom, and then he's also on he's on Sesame Street around the same time he's doing this.
That makes sense, because this is around the time the original Grover got sick and died of AIDS.
Well, for fuck,
I'm sorry. Edit that out.
But no, the way he kind of touches on that, as you said, it's incredible that he's able to do that. He's also apparently, like, according to Gilliam on the commentary track, this is the only guy on set who could go toe to toe with Robin Williams when it came to improv.
Yeah.
Like they would just go, the two of them. He put them together, and it was insane, and that's neat to see.
That seems like a dangerous thing to even allow, and you like as a director, like I don't know, you're not going to keep a lasso around as if you get somebody into a competition with Robin Williams, see who can go bigger.
Well, he's one of those actors, I think, that can just do that sort of shit and defer energy when required or take it when needed. And yeah, the big singing telegram thing, which, by the way, another thing to track, maybe singing telegrams kind of keep popping up in Gilliam. I've noticed. We've seen a few. There's one in Brazil as well now.
Yeah, I had a few other things that popped up in the context of the Gilliam series here. That at the beginning, Jack is fixated on whether he's on being a face and not just a voice that people know him as.
Yeah.
Which, coming off Baron Munchausen, they had the whole head body distinction with the King of the Moon.
Okay. Yeah.
And the Holy Grail obviously connects to earlier stuff, and the Red Knight looks kind of straight out of Jabberwocky, which is not a connection I would have made before this, obviously. There's more obvious, like Jack's got a Brazil poster in his office at the video store, and
Munchausen.
Yeah, and the tabloid he's reading has a headline about some plastic surgery gone wrong, which is a motif in Brazil also. What else? I just have the whole, like, Robin Williams, the way he's obsessed with Amanda Plummer from afar, kind of was a little reminiscent of Sam and Jill in Brazil.
Yeah.
Dynamic, sort of.
That's an incredible
romanticized but unhealthy.
Yeah. Well, when he confesses to stalking her, basically, as a romantic declaration, and Williams kind of pulls it off. That's pretty impressive. Shouldn't work. Kind of doesn't, but it should have fallen a lot flatter than it does. And I think that the fact that the two of them are such weirdos and oddballs is the only reason it pays off at all there. Like that I can take that relationship at all seriously is how weird she is.
On the heels too of that Amanda Plummer little monologue about how she's going to sleep with him, but she knows it's going to go bad in exactly like this way and that way and this way, which is on its own a great little bit of writing and performance by Amanda Plummer that I don't really think fits this character at all. Like that level of stuff. Like, I don't think she's got the history to know that stuff with that level of detail. It's something out of a Woody Allen movie where somebody who's very self-aware and kind of more worldly than the Plummer character is.
And also to match that and turn around and say, "You're stalking me." I love that. Thank you.
That also feels like it comes straight out of a Woody Allen movie too. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, what's going on in The Fisher King and why it is supposed to work there is that she is a person who is not noticed, that no one values,
right?
That no one takes an interest in at all, and she's probably had really bad experiences. Like that's the thing. Like I don't find it out of character that she does go out into the single scene in New York and it's been bad. Like that she's had one night stands that were miserable and made her feel like shit. I buy that. Even if she is very bizarre, it's quite a balancing act, this performance. But the only way that works at all is if she's basically an invisible person, and I think Amanda Plummer gets that.
Yeah, and I think that generally works. I guess it's hard for me to square that the version of the character you're talking about, which does make sense, with also like that same night she had to be really drugged by the hair to go to a Chinese food dinner with a couple of people and doesn't know how to eat dumplings after the 40th try. But whatever.
No, you're right. It's not the best conceived character. I think that the casting does wonders at getting it across. But again, it's probably the part of the movie I would say, maybe get rid of this.
It's a movie of moments, though, I guess. There are these really effective moments that I think it's...
Even in the stuff that's not working as well, like the Amanda Plummer stuff, has these moments, in a big way. I don't know. I really care for this film. This one has always meant something to me. No surprise. I'm pretty on board for all the Gilliams so far. These are all foundational for me, and this one, maybe a little less so than some of the others, but it's a big one. I read the novelization.
I wonder if I would look back at our archives, how many of the movies I could say I've read the novelization for.
Oh man.
I had a moment. I don't remember them all. I remember reading the 89 Batman novelization. That was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only novelization I've read is Alan Dean Foster's novelization of the first Alien film.
Oh, I thought.
And I read.
Sure, we were getting a Star Wars there, but no.
Oh, you know what? I have read Lucas's novelization of Star Wars. I have read that too. But I read the Alan Dean Foster one specifically because that was the only way at the time to see, quotation marks, the cut scene with Dallas being cocooned.
Oh, sure.
Because I knew about it, but there was no way to see it, so that's why I read it. But I'm just not a novelization guy.
I was just thinking, it just hit me with a novelization. I just had this very clear memory of now having as a kid. I had a paperback novelization of Gremlins 2: The New Batch. Which now thinking back, like, what could that have even been?
I think I had that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had that one as well. Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you want to read
cartoon live action? But like, I didn't understand that it was Looney Tunes at the time. So I think I thought that it was supposed to be a more straightforward, scary movie when I was 8 years old or whatever. Like, but...
and speaking of horror movie novelizations, I actually have read, and now they say that I read the crap out of Damien the Omen 2 and the Final Conflict. I read the crap out of those as a kid. Like I was 11, I think, when I read the crap out of those. So
I'm curious. I would love to find some old school, like early 90s films novelizations and read them. And because
I'm sure they're out there.
My memory of this, of the Fisher King specifically, one of my greatest novelization memories is how much they had to like get internal on these characters. They had to like get into the mind state of these people, and in ways that are not spelled out so much. in the context of a 2-hour movie, because it's a novel. You're in their heads. You have to kind of figure out, like, oh, okay, so what are the deals with these guys? They're going around with gasoline, burning homeless people to death. Like that's a thing that happens in this movie, and no one kind of thinks of it really. I guess they're unsuccessful in every case, but they're still out there.
Yeah, I remember it was unsettling to get into the first person perspective of the vegetable gremlin too.
Like, is that shit in there though? Like, like, did they do that for Gremlins too? Because you got to fill a book. You can't just. You got to be like, well, and does it get into the headspace of like the redheaded office slut who's trying to seduce Billy Peltzer? Do we get like any perspective on what she thinks of the gremlin invasion going on? Like, I'm kind of curious now. I think there might be something there. I might see what I can find on eBay tonight.
Yeah, special report coming soon.
Yeah.
First, we've got to get through 12 Monkeys. That's going to be our next one.
Yep, that's next. Mm-hmm. It's a good one. Another one about madness. This is the madness one, maybe. It's got some more stuff, more Oscar nominations. This is kind of his brief window of being an Oscar darling here.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with Gilliam's canon, but I did visually. It was really interesting because I've seen Time Bandits a shitload of times.
Yeah,
but I've only seen 12 Monkeys once. But I felt like I could really see this visual kind of overlay of both of those in this film, kind of the steampunk garbage kind of
a lot of
sensibility.
Garbage. Yeah, a lot of Dutch angles, a lot of wide fish angle lenses, a lot of a lot of fluorescent lighting, a lot of the subterranean
asylum stuff here really prefigures a big chunk of 12 Monkeys.
12 Monkeys, yeah,
very much
visually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's got the Brad Pitt performance. It's the one when people started taking him seriously.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll be the next time when we return for more Terry Gilliam. And thank you very much for joining us, Michael.
Thank you for having me. This has been really satisfying, bordering on mystical.
Fantastic. Good night, everybody.
Strange women lying in ponds, distributing salt is no basis for a system of government.
It's evil! Don't touch it!
That was only one of the many occasions on which I met my death.